everybody. I thought I'd share some of my tips on photography and some tricks. And you're probably wondering what cameras I'm using. Let's start with the first thing. The first thing I've got here is a T4i. It's pretty standard. It's really light. It's plastic body, super light. And I'm using this 10-22 lens, also made by Canon. And then I've got a Mark IV 5D, which is super heavy. And right now I have a 100mm macro lens on it. And I don't usually travel with this. It's too heavy. So I'm going to show you what I usually shoot with and all the pictures that you've been seeing. I've got here a fisheye lens attached onto a Moment case, and this phone is the Pixel 4, but a lot of the pictures that you've been seeing were on a Pixel 3. So I've been using a phone to capture these images instead of these super heavy and expensive cameras. Now that I got that out of the way, let's look at some of these pictures. So I'm going to focus entirely on Vientiane, Laos. And I think when it comes to photography, the subject matter is very important. And then the technicalities like composition, lighting, and different effects you can apply to these images. So we're looking at a tempo shot, and this was really tough because there's just so much clutter. And you look at my pictures, there's not a lot of clutter in a lot of the shots. But if we were just to focus on the rule of thirds, which is composition, we would have something, these kind of lines that we draw to create the grid. Now, it's kind of funny that I ended up having, and this is totally intuitive, as the eye of this serpent god in the center. And just to talk about this image itself, like the subject matter, is pretty incredible. Like the craftsmanship and the artistry to make this snake-like elephant in this Buddhist temple is I've never seen anything like it. If you look at the trunk, it falls right in line in one of the rule of thirds. The lens has its limitations, so you can see the barreling that's happening on the corners on this side of the shot. And I'm reviewing this lens, I guess. They are not sponsoring me, but this is what I use most of the time. So I'm going to be very honest with you. My uncle kind of jumped into the shot too, which kind of made it tough. But then I oversaturated the rest, and this, in my view, worked out to be a good image. And I do a lot of heavy HDR to my pictures. Let's have a look at some other ones. This was I think the subject matter was really strong on this one, and it also follows the rule of thirds. If we look at the way we were to draw this out, it's more or less, the subject, which is this platform, is on one of the lines, and then from there I more or less centered the horizon across to keep this picture in place. And what really works with HDR is cloud coverage. So you need clouds in order to make it stand out. Without clouds, it doesn't have that drama. Just to go off of the rule of thirds, I'm not overly concerned about it, but if we were to draw it, it would look something like that. And again, there's some good cloud coverage. And then I pushed the saturation of the blue here. Now, if we look at the original image, this is what the original image looks like. So it's quite a big contrast between the two images side to side. And you can see that I pushed the saturation quite heavy. At the time when I shot this, I thought this was a really nice subject matter to shoot. But when I started playing around with it, and I was using Instagram, it didn't seem to hold. And I think the reason why is because there is this unnecessary clutter. So we have the sign in the background, we have this garbage bag here, and there's not really any sort of focal point. I think what would work with this, the bamboo trees are really interesting. Okay, and that's all here. And I think if it covered down here as well, I think this would really work as a singular house. So this is, a house, a room that one of the monks live in. And that in itself is interesting, but there's just extra stuff that doesn't really hold in terms of the composition in the picture. In this particular instance, we have this very, very beautiful monument in Vientiane, Laos. What I thought worked with this one was the reflection. The reflection was something I wanted to hold, so I tried to go as low as I could on the angle to push this. And again, it follows the rule of thirds, right? Pretty easily, pretty predictable. And so when I put this into Instagram, I was able to push some of the lights. So, over in this section, the lights are really strong, and a little bit through the gate, but I was not able to capture a lot of or at least push out some of the sky. And that's one of the problems. I shot too late in the evening. I think it was around 9 p.m. So if I shot this maybe around 7 or 8, I might be able to push some of the clouds in the sky out, and I think that would have been a nicer image. And so here's another example. This is shot right after sunset, so I think around 6:30 p.m. And you can see that there is better sky coverage. It's not entirely black. There are some people in it, which pulls it away, but what can you do? But I did end up I did try to center this as much as I possibly could to create this 1-point perspective, and the palm tree seems to hold pretty well, I thought. And I shot this with a different fisheye. Again, also a mounted lens on my phone, so so it's not as crisp as it is now. And so here is better equipment, and you can see that with the better equipment, you can really capture some of those details, right, throughout the monument. I was not particularly fond of these bushes, so maybe if I were to go back, I would maybe clean that up. And it's not entirely centered, okay, on the canvas, and so I think that is a problem. Simple cropping would fix this. And then it's quite similar to this one too. It's not centered. The rule of thirds on the horizon seemed to work okay. The palm trees are nice. The cloud coverage works okay. This was kind of late, but it still was able to get some detail. And there's a lot of noise in this shot. But generally speaking, I like the campus, and the campus worked okay. And there is a person sitting there, which is really funny. You don't see that person. You're so caught by this beautiful triangle that's formed with the temple. And finally, the same monument is called Tat Luang, also in Vientiane. This one seemed to work out okay. Again, it was tough because, compositionally, this was problematic because of the gate on the left-hand side. I wanted to hide it, and we couldn't get into the temple because it's closed. It's past their normal hours. But nonetheless, we got this triangle that creates this pinnacle, which is on the rule of thirds, kind of. Again, I didn't like this extra stuff here, but the cloud coverage seems to work. And I put a minor vignette around the corners, which, again, very subtle. And for the most part, the image quality is pretty good, considering it's a nighttime shot. And so there you have it. Just a quick multi-picture experience through Vientiane, Laos, and how I shot what I shot and what I thought seemed to work to give you some of these images. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll do more overviews of other photos that I've taken from other countries. So subscribe. Hopefully this is fun and enjoyable, and this is the new camera. See you in the next video.